Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Epic Battles episode. And today I've got a replay from Aiphares, who is playing a Königsberg in a Tier 7 battle. And the reason why this particular replay caught my attention recently is because, one, Königsbergs generally don't do too well when you get to a higher tier battle because they're really easy to citadel and to kill. And second, well, Aiphares, if I see the stats correctly, is just an average player. He's not super unicum and everything. And the fact that he did really well with his ship, it tells you a lot about what Warships is all about. That you can do well if you do your job right. Alright, let's take a look at the enemy team first because they're about to go ahead and make a couple of mistakes. First up, their Arpeggio Miyoko and their York are coming down the 2 line by themselves with absolutely no support. And the Miyoko, even though it looks really awesome and it's pink and everything, it's nothing more than a Miyoko painted in breast cancer awareness colors. So yeah, decided to go ahead and give a Königsberg a broadside, which even though the Königsberg is a tier 5, German armor piercing still hurts a lot. And in something like 2 salvos, the Miyoko pretty much gets wiped out. Although at like the last possible second, with that last little bit of HP, somebody else took the kill. Oh well. Moving on to the York, which initially thought, oh, I have a friend there, look, this beautiful pink ship is going to take the lead, all of a sudden finds it has no friends anymore, and yeah, lone German cruiser taking this much focus fire, not going to last very long. And by the way, that last salvo there, 5,500 damage, German AP is great. That one not so much. And from this very first engagement, there's already a really important lesson to be learned, which is if you're playing a cruiser, you're not going out there by yourself. You are a support ship. You have to go with your battleships and basically provide support. Your job is not to go out there by yourself with one other cruiser and hopefully try to take down 2 battleships, 2 cruisers, a destroyer. That just doesn't work, and the results show for themselves. Aiphares' team is very quickly able to decimate both those cruisers, and now the enemy team is down 2 top tier cruisers. In fact, those 2 are the only top tier cruisers they had. So both of them gone within the first 4 minutes of the game. What the cruisers probably should have done is quickly turned around, took a look at their own team and went, oh look, none of the battleships are coming. Alright, that probably means we're not pushing down here. Turn around and head back. However, I do have to say that there are times where even I forget this particular rule because, well, I'm a little bit too used to battleship play. I'm too used to pushing, and sometimes I get a little bit overly aggressive. But it's really important as the cruiser player to remember that let the battleships take the heat, right? Let the battleships be there to absorb the punishment with their armor and their HP while you sit there and toss torpedoes or set fires or do all the supporting jobs. And so in a way, the enemy battleships have to choose. Do I risk taking large amounts of damage from the enemy battleship, which, mind you, are also easier to hit because they're just bigger, slower targets, or do you try to nuke the cruisers because the cruisers, if you don't nuke them, can fire torpedoes or set you on fire a whole bunch of times? There's always that decision to be made, and as the cruiser, what you want to do, essentially, is make sure that the battleship is the bigger threat so that the enemy battleship prioritizes your battleship, while you're just on sort of that margin where you're still dangerous to the enemy ship, but you yourself are not at that much risk. So that's a tough balance to get, by the way. It's not easy. Sometimes you can overextend, push too far, and be an easy target for the enemy ships to take shots at. But if you do it correctly, well, you'll see the difference. I mean, there's certain parts in this battle where the enemy battleship chooses to shoot at the battleship on Aiphares' team, while Aiphares is just in a position where he doesn't get fired on, but can see when the enemy battleship has decided to shoot at something different, so that gives Aiphares the opportunity to jump out and to attack the enemy ship with torpedoes or with guns. And by the way, for those of you who've been actually reading the chat, Aiphares has actually spent the last like 2.5 minutes as he's going from the 2 line to the center of the map. And he's been typing in chat, and he's been talking to his division mate and explaining what armor angling is all about. And I'm really happy about this because taking the time to teach, I think, is really a big part of improving the overall gameplay in the server. As more and more players begin to understand certain concepts, they get better. And as players get better, the game becomes more fun. Not only that, but if you have like a conversation about balance or anything like that, the more educated the other players are, the better the discussion is likely to be, because any balance discussion is going to go better if people understand what's happening. If people don't get what's going on, good luck having a balance discussion with them, because they'll just be like, oh, this is overpowered, or that's overpowered, and this needs a nerf, and you're just like, no, because if you understood the mechanics behind it, it's not that bad. And so that's why I'm really, really happy to actually see that he spent that time, as he's doing generally nothing except traveling from one point to another, to actually sit there and talk to his division mate and say, here's what armor angling is all about, and here's how it works. So good job to you there as well. All right, so Aiphares has gotten into a very nice position. Take a look at where he is. He's taking cover behind this island because he's seen that the Colorado on the enemy team has decided to come into a place that's generally not very friendly to battleships, a place that is relatively narrow and is a perfect torpedo trap area. But take a look, there's a battleship right now on Aiphares' team on the border of G3 and G4. That battleship is going to take, generally speaking, the attention of the enemy battleships. And while the enemy battleships are taking a look at that particular battleship and keeping an eye on it, Aiphares is able to pop out, dump torpedoes, and right there, the Colorado is now in a really bad position. In order to dodge these torpedoes, the Colorado has to slow down. Well, Aiphares has torpedoes on the other side of his ship, and he's turning his ship around. And, well, the Colorado fired his salvo against the other battleship, so his guns are still reloading. So Aiphares is able to probably pop those other torpedoes off on the other side had he needed them, and ducked right behind this island again, back to perfect safety. Now, one of the things that I was doing as I was watching this particular replay was thinking about German cruisers as a whole, and doing maybe a little bit of theory crafting in my head. And mind you, until I've actually played the cruisers in more detail, I'm not going to pronounce, this is the way to play German cruisers, but there is a theory that's formulating in my head that what the German cruisers' role might be is to start off as the longer range fire support for your battleships, so using your AP and your HE to hit enemy ships, and then eventually finding a section of the map where you're able to utilize your torpedoes in a way to shut an area down. And again, this is still theory and I'm still formulating it in my head, but it's reasonable to think that, because if you watch what Aiphares does, is he stays in this little area for a little bit of time because he's seen what the enemy team was doing, and against both the Colorado and the Nagato, he's going to be pretty effective at this. Enemy Nagato is coming in much the same way that the Colorado did, coming into this area where there's very, very few options, and Aiphares basically pulls the same thing again. Nagato shoots at the carrier on Aiphares' team, Aiphares pops up, throws torpedoes towards the Nagato. Now the Nagato tries to do what I said earlier the Colorado should have done, which is probably to slow down and turn in. And you'll see that the first salvo that Aiphares fires actually misses, as the Nagato does take the corrective actions to try to evade the first salvo. But Aiphares sees what the Nagato is doing and trying to dodge his first set of torpedoes, turns the ship around, gets the second salvo of torpedoes away. And this is what makes the Königsberg and most of the other German cruisers quite dangerous. They've got torpedoes on both sides, so if on the first one you do the right thing and you're able to evade it, the second one is going to be on its way when the ship gets turned around. The Nagato does manage to take out Aiphares' forward gun, but interestingly enough, German cruisers really, really good at running away because they've got two guns on the back, which is unlike a lot of other nations' cruisers where they are better bow in. The German cruisers seem to be better while they're running away from things, as they maintain 66% of their firepower with their rear two turrets. Aiphares actually gets really, really lucky, as right as the Nagato gets off the immunity period from the repair kit, he's back on fire again. I know, I'm a battleship player too, I understand the pain. It's as if our ships have napalm for deck coverings instead of, I don't know, a layer of steel covered by just a thin layer of wood. But that's besides the point. Anyways, the Nagato starts to burn, even with the really, really pathetic German HE, but oh well, what can you do about it as a battleship except to just sit there and accept your inevitable fate that you're just a massive barbecue on the water. Okay, I should probably stop. I'm starting to sound a little bit salty. Alright, so moving on. The Nagato is going to go down really, really soon. Aiphares is trying to get over there to maybe land the killing blow to collect himself another kill. But he doesn't actually get there in time as the Nagato just gets wrecked by everything else. So, once the Nagato goes down, guess what? No more cover for that enemy ranger anymore. And once the cover's gone, the carrier is in trouble. Mind you, the ranger has done the right thing. He's moved up just one square behind where the front lines would have been in order to minimize the time it takes for his planes to travel to target and back to his ship to get rearmed and back out to target again. Ranger's done the right thing. The two battleships on the enemy team, well, you know, when you go into a place that is very, very, very torpedo friendly and very hostile to battleships, you're pretty much asking for it. And both the Colorado and the Nagato went in there and they both got wrecked. And so now this poor enemy ranger, well, not many places to go. Remember, carriers are not the most agile things, and they don't exactly turn around quickly. It's one of the things as well. I've had quite a few people, when I'm playing carriers, just be like, shouldn't you be able to turn around? And you're like, I have 1,000+ meter turn radius. This ship really doesn't go quickly. Oh, and I'm also a humongous target, so there's only so much you can do while trying to escape in a carrier. And this ranger, well, the poor guy, there's just not much he can do. Especially as Aiphares is now closing him down with a cruiser. And cruisers, remember, if they catch an unprotected carrier, the carrier is pretty screwed. First things first, he sees the one prediction indicator for like a fraction of a second, gets torpedoes off, and just as the Ranger is starting to get a little bit of speed and starting to accelerate, oh yeah, and carriers don't accelerate very quickly as they are huge things, the torpedoes are already well on their way. Aiphares is able to get in a couple of nice shots with a very, very nice salvo of torpedoes following those shots, and adios to the Ranger. There we go, and that's high caliber, another devastating strike, and so far, Aiphares has picked up a good number of torpedo hits. That's 9 in total. He's sunk 2 ships for now. 4 Citadel hits. There's a good number of stats all around. Oh, is that what I think it is in the distance? Is that a full HP Congo that's absolutely not moving and being AFK? Looks like it, which means Aiphares is going to be able to get in there and get some more torpedoes and some extra damage. And I bet somebody out there is going, you showed us a battle where the player kills an AFK? He's just padding his damage. He doesn't do that. Okay. I'll get there. I'll get there. Even if you take away the damage that he gets from the Congo, he still does fantastic. And I'll show you guys the stats page at the end. Anyway, so Aiphares is like, alright, well, I guess I'll just go in there and I will take down this Congo. All the while, might as well step onto cap, because who knows what will happen if I step onto cap. Maybe there's a chance that I'll get some additional cappy. Ooh. Hello, Ryujo. There's the enemy Ryujo. So now all of a sudden, Aiphares has targets on both sides. And so what he's going to do is he's going to sail his ship right between the two of them and get the torpedoes on the port side off on the Congo and the starboard side torpedoes against this Ryujo. And this is one of the fun things that you get to do when you have torpedoes on both sides of your ship. You can fire off torpedoes on one side and on the other, assuming, of course, that you're able to survive. And in this case, with only a carrier on one side and the AFK battleship on the other, this is going to be a lot of extra damage. So first things first, obviously the Congo, because yes, Aiphares is a bit of a damage pattern there, and that's priority number 1 over the carrier. No, it's just because the carrier is no real threat. Now, the carrier is closing in. Aiphares, remember, only has 2 rear guns, so gets off some shots with the rear guns. Gets torpedoes out. Enemy Ryujo is just in deep trouble right now. Oh, by the way, Aiphares, there was one little thing while you were engaging the carrier that I had a tiny little objection, by the way. There's Confederate, another torpedo hit, by the way. Is that after this particular moment, you turned your attention to the Congo, but the Congo wasn't doing anything, so that should have been... Oh, and he detonates the Congo, too. Ow. To add insult to injury there. It doesn't just kill him with a torpedo, he detonates him. But anyways, you should have just finished off the Ryujo with your guns. I mean, the Congo wasn't going to be posing that much of a threat, considering he was AFK. But anyways, secondaries do the work, yes. The secondary gunners on Aiphares' Königsberg were actually awake and actually aiming at something, actually hitting stuff, which is a miracle for secondary gunners, as they tend to be drunk 99% of the time, unless you, of course, magically get the I guess, that captain skill that gives you a reduction to your dispersion of your secondary guns. Anyways, all right, so that was a double strike medal. And I think so far, yeah, there's double strike, Confederate, high caliber, 2 devastating strikes. So that's 5 medals so far, with the potential for 1 more, right? So, anyways, let's see where the last remaining enemy ship is, and I believe that is a Cleveland that's hiding in the island there. Once again, don't forget, he's only got 2 rear guns, so every time you engage something, it's kind of got to offer a little bit more of a broadside. So there's the Cleveland, it pops up. The Cleveland is offering a pretty good side shot there. Aiphares immediately takes it with armor piercing, and he's going to do pretty solid damage with his armor piercing. German AP, like I mentioned before, is one of their strong points, and if you hit the right places on the ship, you are going to do some pretty good damage. Plus, the rate of fire is amazing, actually. If you look at the guns, they reload very, very quickly, and they're able to get out shots very quickly. And here I go. I had to slow this down because, you know, World of Warships replays. At the end, if you don't slow it down enough to give yourself time to actually end the recording, you've kind of got to do it all over again. And so there we go. I thought this was going to be the killing shot. I slowed it down. I'm like, come on, 1300 HP. I've seen him do 1300 minimum damage salvos. This should be the end, right? Look, the shots are hitting. I slowed down too soon. It's just right now the replay system in World of Warships. Nothing you can do. You can't go normal speed all the way to the end because it'll just abruptly cut off. But yeah, that salvo didn't do it. 3 hits only did like 700 damage, leaving the Cleveland with 500 HP. But this next salvo was going to actually do the job here. So slowing it down, slow motion, glorious action as there go the shots into the ship. There goes kill number 5. And look at the final results here. 427,776 credits, 2,925 experience. And I think that's actually on a silver account, so this is not on a premium account. 147 free XP, and there's 6 medals, including Kraken. 129 hits, 11 torpedo hits, which is going to be a nice chunk of damage there. 5 ships destroyed, 10 flooding. Don't forget, he actually got detonation as well, and 4 Citadel hits. In terms of his damage, this was fantastic. With everything counted together, 246,164 damage. But somebody's going to be like, but the Congo was AFK. And yes, I know. Even if you took the Congo away, and you took the 54,000, roughly 54,000 HP away, he still manages 192,000 damage in a Königsberg in a tier 7 battle, which is absolutely amazing. And his base experience was 2,925, an amazing score for a tier 5 ship in a tier 7 battle. Anyways, Aiphares, thank you for sending in this battle. It was a pleasure to watch. Anyways, folks, that brings us to the end of this Epic Battles episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one, by the way. And, oh, and one more thing. I should have another review of something coming up in the very near future. So keep your eyes open for that. I can't tell you exactly what it is yet, but, you know, I'll try to get it done ASAP and get it out on the right day. But, yes, keep an eye open for it. Anyways, okay, I'm out of here. Take care, folks. Have a good one, and I'll talk to all of you again soon.